Hello and welcome to this edition of the DMZ America podcast. It is Thursday, August 8th, 2024. This is episode 159, if you can believe it. I am editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis coming to you from the right.
And I'm editorial cartoonist Ted Rall coming to you from the left.
So apparently there's an election that's going on of some kind. I saw it on a news feed on TikTok.
Decision 2024 and a half. Get it?
I was talking about this.
Get
I
it?
got it. It's fabulous. And I gotta tell you, Ted, I am thrilled to death that this election seems to be cut in half. I love the shortened election. You know, in the UK, they have their elections last 5 weeks. They had one like the last election cycle, maybe before, where it was 6 weeks, and everyone in Britain's going, "Oh my God, this is such bullshit. I hate this. It's bollocks," whatever that means. I like the short election, I have to admit, but here's the danger. Kamala Harris is being treated so well by the mainstream media that anyone can project anything onto her that they want. In fact, I've decided she's my mother.
Mamala.
Mamala, even though she's literally 15 years younger than me.
Well, she could be. That would no, not really.
No, what?
Well, that would be like, remember in Interstellar that kind of happened, right? Where
yeah,
he comes back and he's younger than his daughter.
oh, by a lot, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so maybe that could be it. Anyway, the preposterous, I gotta tell you, I mean, I work for a mainstream media outlet. I work for two, and well, three, actually, I guess I freelance for three. But it's embarrassing, Ted. She hasn't sat down for an interview yet. No one has really challenged or asked her what she stands for, what she's going to do about inflation, for instance. What is she going to do in Gaza? What is she going to do about Ukraine? I mean, you know, issues that may or may not matter to some people. She's for, I mean, even the commercial that I see a lot online, you know, not only do I want a woman's right to choose in the Constitution, I want it guaranteed in every state. I'm going, that's what the Constitution does.
You don't need that. Yeah.
It's a weird line. It's you know, for a lawyer to say that seems weird. But this honeymoon, I mean, can this honeymoon, and we know that this, I'm going to answer my own question, but I want you to say something. Can this honeymoon last into nobody, no power I know of.
Yeah.
But can this honeymoon go on to November? Don't forget, they covered up for Joe Biden for 3.5 fucking years. So yeah, this honeymoon can go on until the election. We can have a debate where she's for goodness and against badness. And that's all she has to be in that debate, because that format really does play into her strengths. The breaking news is that Donald Trump has agreed to the ABC debate format. He's also said we can have 2 more in September. And if you're Kamala Harris, and the latest poll today, she's 6 points ahead of Trump.
Nah, she's not 6 points ahead.
Yeah, she's
like
the A+ poll that came out this morning, she was 6 points up.
What the fuck is an A+ poll? Is that
I think it's better than the B-
side
poll.
project?
I would say go to look up on Drudge, and he posted it this morning. The result.
Never heard of that.
On me either. I'm sure if it's a teachers union poll, their polls are usually pretty damn good, by the way.
I'll wait to hear what Rasmussen has to say,
but she's pulling ahead. And here's the thing I was going to say that I wanted to get your opinion on, and you can roll your eyes and pish posh me all you want. This feels like 2008.
Yes. That's Scott. That's exactly what I was going to say. You know, you mentioned how the media ran interference for Biden for the better part of, well, really all of 4 years, not 3. Yeah, Obama, they ran interference for him the whole time. I mean, and you know, this was his presidency is very fondly remembered, and even today he's an elder statesman in the party. But the truth is, let's not forget, among other things, he basically sparked two radical political movements of people who were so angry. They started the Tea Party and the Occupy Wall Street movement. Tea Party morphed into MAGA and became MAGA as we know it. Occupy became the angry progressive base of what became the Bernie insurgency in 2 consecutive cycles, which is so powerful that even now the Tim Walz choice is in large part, a response to that. So Obama was not a successful president by most objective standards. But the point is, the media looked out for him and protected him the entire time. So the answer is clearly yes. This honeymoon can go on indefinitely. It can go on into her election, into 8 years of her presidency. It can. I don't know that it will, because I don't think she's nearly as gifted a politician as Barack Obama was. I mean, we're paying a lot more attention to her now. We haven't. And I hate to say this, but my big takeaway when I saw the rally where Tim Walz was rolled out in Philadelphia was that pretty much anyone has more charisma than Kamala Harris. I mean, first of all, I had never paid much attention to Josh Shapiro, and he was extremely impressive. I was like, oh, I get it. I see it. I see that guy is going to be a major contender in 28 and 32. No question about it. He's got the riz. Tim Walz, I think, was chosen to be like the Tim Keene to not overshadow her. In fact, in all the coverage about how she came to her decision, it was clear that behind the scenes, she didn't want someone who could overshadow her, but he does. He is more interesting, more fun,
more authentic,
sharper, better, more likable than she is. It's very strange because she looks great. She's the right age. She dresses great. Her hair is great. She's got a great face, but there's no there. It's really fucking weird. I mean, it's sort of like you go on a date with someone and, they look good, they smell good, and you want the date to work, but it just doesn't. There's no chemistry. She doesn't have chemistry with the voters. And I honestly was surprised, because I was like, I thought, Tim Walz, who the fuck is Tim Walz? Tim Walz, it turns out, is someone who is, you come away from it, you're like, he should be at the top of the ticket. She should still be vice president. I don't think, the more I pay attention to her, I never thought she was smart. Today, Donald Trump at his press conference said that she's not smart. You know what? He's right. She's not smart. I don't know how the fuck she got to be where she is today, but if she's smart, she's not able to use her words in the English language to make that known to us. I mean, it may well be that, I don't know, she can, solve the quadratic equation well, but we don't know that. I mean, we can't tell. I mean, Barack Obama is a smart man. I mean, I don't think he's as smart as he thinks. He's NPR smart, but she's not NPR. But she's not NPR smart.
Yes,
she's kind of a dingus,
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know because I don't know because I don't know, because even after almost 4 years in a White House when she's had no interviews, where a very precious few where she has sat down, which is weird because, vice presidents tend to sit down for interviews. She can skate going forward. And, I was speaking to someone earlier about this, that because she has mainstream media protecting her, she can talk in platitudes. It doesn't have to be.
Well, that's what I mean.
Specifics.
I mean, she literally doesn't have anything interesting to say. And as far as I can tell, she never has. I don't think there's a single speech or excerpt of a speech that I've seen where she's actually saying anything. Whatever you think of, I don't care who it is. Most people in public life, including Joe Biden, have at times had things to say. She doesn't appear to be one of them. She really does sound like, the kid who didn't read the book and is now running out the clock to give the book report.
Yeah.
Melville, John, it's like Melville is an author of words in the English language in the United States. He did a lot of stuff for which he is well known. And we have been asked, the reason that we've been asked to study his words are because they are of note. It's like, it's like she's a bullshitter. And I mean, they all are, but I mean, literally, but that's just not, I mean, come on. I mean, you name a politician who literally never says anything. That's just not normal.
It's not normal, but it also doesn't tend to be successful at this level. So that's begs my question. Can they keep this up? And I don't know that you can.
I don't think so. I think people are, and I think the reason is because the Democratic voters know that they were conned over Biden, and won't be fooled again, right? As the Who said. I think people are watching more closely, and they're not going to think she's senile. They're going to think, well, she's younger, so she's got to be sharper. But they're going to be paying closer attention, and when they realize that she's a bird brain, that's going to be a problem.
But when does that happen? Because if all she's doing is these rallies, and to be perfectly honest, the optics of the rallies have been really impressive. It's
True.
10, 15,000 people. That's a lot of people. I mean, those
because
rallies,
it's a rock star thing. People want to come and see this phenomenon. Yeah. This is a curiosity thing. This is the same reason people turned out to see Bernie. It was like, there's this new person. We got to let's go check her out. Because Hillary didn't get that kind of turnout because people were really familiar with her. Kamala had me wishing a lot, except for the fact that she was a psychotic warmonger, had me wishing for Hillary, who Hillary Clinton is smart. No question about it. She doesn't have the charisma. She's extremely unlikable, but that's still, I don't think I don't know. I don't think I don't think the crowds will continue to be that big. I don't
know.
I think forever.
Well, I'm looking at 1948, as we all do.
Henry Wallace and his independent campaign.
Yes, you had Wallace, you had Strom Thurmond as a Dixiecrat, then you had Tom Dewey for the Republicans, and you had Harry Truman. Harry Truman kept doing rallies and doing the train stop campaign, and the crowds were huge. Now, the mainstream media wrote them off, saying that, it's just a bunch of, because he stops in places, in the middle of nowhere, rural America, and it's just a bunch of rubes who want to say they saw a president.
Yeah.
And
well, it turned out
it was, but it was also, he convinced enough of them to vote for him to win an election in his own right in 1948 against all odds and against the polls.
Yes.
So big crowds do mean something. When the Trump people crow about their big crowds, there's something to crow about because the numbers are there.
They're not wrong. Yeah, you're right.
So her rallies, again, they're huge. If you see the overview, it's impressive as hell. Yeah. I'm with you, Ted. I don't think this type of thing, without saying anything going forward, is sustainable. It just isn't, other than she's a woman of color. This is historic. It is.
The polls show that people don't care that much about that. Even women and even people of color don't care that much about that.
I think NPR voters care about it. Now, Is that a large number of voters? I don't think so. It's certainly not enough for you to win.
I don't think it's people who wouldn't have voted for any random Democrat who was a rutabaga anyway.
Well, I know people who would say they'd vote for lawn furniture before they'd vote for Donald Trump. I think
they're about to get their chance.
I don't know. I do think that the knock against her as, another California liberal San Francisco liberal is not going to play well. It doesn't, that's not going to play well.
I don't think it lands. It doesn't land because Because she was a DA. It doesn't
Well,
land.
they have a counter argument. There's no question about that. But now let's talk about her choice of Walz, Governor Walz from Minnesota as her running mate. I think you're right. I think she wanted to find someone who wasn't going to out charisma her. He has kind of down home, aw shucks charisma.
But that was not the number one reason she chose him.
What do you think it was?
Oh, I know what it was. 100%.
Let's hear it.
100%.
100%?
157%. This was all about trying to keep the party together. Hillary Clinton blew up the Democratic Party when she told the progressives and the Bernie people to go fuck themselves in the 2016 election. She's like, I don't need you. I'll get the anti-Trump Republicans to vote for me. Between 3 and 4 million Bernie voters who had voted for Bernie in the primaries, which means they're hardcore voters, did not vote at all that year. That's why she lost. And so Joe Biden's people, they learned that lesson, and they decided to throw the progressives enough bones in terms of staffing and a seat at the table for the infrastructure bill and all that to keep them in. And it worked. Nobody went third party in 2020. 0.2% of the Democrats voted for Howie Hawkins, the Green Party candidate.
Who could forget?
In 2020. And so, well, he was a good guy. I interviewed him. He was good. But the point is, so I think Kamala was trying to avoid the 2016 mistake. Like, I can't have the progressives be pissed at me. I can't have, someone I've got to have the most progressive person on my list. Now, Tim Walz is a progressive come lately, but he's a progressive. He ticks all the boxes. So the left is not, the progressives in the party are not pissed at her yet. So that's good.
Well, let's talk about what the Fox News attacks on Walz. Now Fox News is crowing that Harris campaign walks back Walz bio amid stolen valor controversy as questions swirl. Well, my first reaction,
are they swirling?
They're not swirling. Nobody gives a shit. In fact, if I was the Harris-Walz campaign, I would say, he spent 24 years in the National Guard. That's 24 more years than Corporal Bone Spurs spent in any military operation.
True.
Fuck you. I mean, with Vance, Vance was a Marine. So, if military service is important to you, then that's, God, hats off.
Yeah. However, he was Radar O'Reilly. He didn't serve. He didn't serve in a combat zone. I've seen more shots fired in anger than JD Vance has.
It's an interesting attack. It smacks of the Swift boat Veterans for Truth, if you remember, from smart. 2004.
It's smart.
It's smart. You told me it was Rove who in 04 who went after what they felt was Kerry's strengths. They say, go after it.
Yes.
And I think
that's also what Trump is doing with the race shit too.
What do you mean?
Well, when Trump says about Kamala, oh, she's not black, he's trying to go after one of her big strengths which is her identity. And people are excited to vote for a black woman and a woman. And so I don't know, maybe next he'll be like, she's not really a woman. But yeah, maybe he knows something I don't know. But the point is,
no, I don't think it landed. I don't think the black thing came off as racist. And
nothing new there.
Well, but this was particularly really sounding the dog whistles. And trying to steal away black votes from her by pointing this out, which is insane. Well, I
thought it was a disgusting and a smart move.
Well, you just described politics in a nutshell. The military attacks on Walz. I mean, I would just go back and say, listen, I served. The problem that Kerry had is he waited weeks before he responded to the Swift boat guys.
And then he did it weekly.
I don't think he could believe that this would work. I don't think his campaign thought it could. This is nonsense.
Because they were relying on the facts. I mean, John Kerry literally has absolutely the best story to tell about Vietnam that anybody could possibly have. It's literally like he has it all covered. I didn't want other poor kids to go in my stead, So even though I was a son of privilege, I volunteered to go, served with distinction, was highly decorated for valor. But then when I got there, I realized it was all bullshit. I came home, threw my medals over the fence, and testified about in anti-war hearings, the Winter Soldier hearings, about how bad it was. So he has the peacenik and the Rambo vote. And yet,
Right.
and that's why Karl Rove realized we have to go after that. We can't let that sit.
And he's so weakly, it really was emblematic of him as a person, I think, and him as a candidate was just very meekly, like you said, when he finally did confront it, it was very soft.
He thought the facts were going to come to light of their own. He trusted the media.
He trusted the media, and he trusted the American people to have an attention span past 5 seconds.
Oh my God.
So
not going to happen.
So is this going to, I mean, does this matter, the Walz story? I mean, seriously.
I don't think I don't think it will matter. And for one huge reason, it's not 2 years after 9/11. Militarism just isn't, it ebbs and flows. It's a huge part of American society, but the whole thank you for your service era is over. We're not in one of those right now. People are not people respect military service, sure, but it's not slavish and slathering the way it was. And also the two of these guys, their service kind of cancels each other out. Vance and Walz kind of have analogous experiences. You throw them both on a scale, they roughly even out. Vance was a Marine, a real Marine, whereas Walz was a weekend warrior, but for a much longer time, right? So in the aggregate, I think it kind of it comes out in the wash.
What do you think of Vance? We really haven't talked much about him. I thought his comment, I got to admit, he's kind of the Eddie Haskell of this election. I mean, he's just sort of a schmarmy guy, kind of a turd, but he's also, he's one of the few that actually has a quick wit, I think, or a quick mind. At least he was, they were at the same, they were both their planes, the campaign plane for Trump, Vance ticket landed in Wisconsin at the same time as Air Force Two. And he gets out and he wants to walk over and talk to Kamala and talk to Walz, and they both ran away. But he said he's pointing at the plane scene. That's going to be mine. That's going to be mine in a few months. I'm sorry. That's a good line.
Funny. Well, look, he's from Southwest Ohio, and those of us who are
not Appalachia.
Those of us who are from Southwestern Ohio know that it's a place where a lot of people are very smart, and so.
If they're so smart, why are they in Southwestern Ohio?
They leave. He's from Southwest Ohio, much like myself. So look, no, I mean, J.D. Vance is a conservative intellectual. He's a smart fucking guy. He is, I think, impressive. And I think Democrats would be very, very foolish to underestimate him. He's a force to be reckoned with. And, I would not fuck with him in a dumb way. I mean, it's kind of like, if you go after him, you'd better drive a stake through his heart. Otherwise, forget it.
Yeah. I just, couch humpers for Trump Vance. It's just it's a weird story. I'm not in love with the guy just because he seems like the kind of hedge fund people that you and I tend not to care for.
Oh, he's a shitheel for sure.
Oh, okay.
Well, not to mention, I mean, I don't like him. But it's kind of like back in the day, people would say I don't like Madonna's music, but I respect her as a business person. That's how I feel about Vance. We know he's completely inauthentic. He was, basically a soft. He was a moderate. He was a Democrat, and then he realized that there was money to be made, and there was a political, there was political gain to be achieved by moving to the right and entering MAGA land. So he did, and whatever principles he ever had are gone. It's gross. He's a gross guy. I don't know how much of what he says he believes. Some of the stuff that he says about women really, truly is reminiscent of Vichy France. I mean, he is an old-fashioned 1930s unreconstituted fascist. He literally believes in the cult of the soil, the cult of the family above all. The females should be bearing children and keeping the home safe. I mean, hell, Usha just quit her job as a which a very high powered job, to be his to help him in his campaign. He's kind of terrifying, actually, in a way that Trump isn't.
Explain.
Trump is basically he is he's like a one-man political weather vane. Like, if the country started to move to Marxism, he would start wearing a hammer and sickle on his jacket, and he would sing the Internationale. Whatever's popular, he throws shit at the wall, and if it sticks, he does it. I mean, he just suggested reversing Ronald Reagan's taxes on Social Security benefits. Good idea, I think. I don't understand why Social Security benefits or unemployment benefits were ever subject to the income tax. It makes no sense. They're sucked out of your taxes to begin with, and then you're taxed on your taxes. Like, what? That makes no sense at all.
Wow, you're sounding like a Republican. Please continue.
But so I think it's a good idea that's going to be probably very popular. But come on, that's a liberal idea. That's something Biden should have come up with. And so the fact is that Trump is an opportunist. Vance is truly like the Handmaid's Tale. He doesn't want exceptions on abortion, even for the life of the mother. And he's said that and defended that, and he has an intellectual architecture to defend it. Vance is dangerous. It reminds me of when I had David Duke on my old radio show in LA for 3 hours. I came out of that thinking, if anyone ever pays attention to this guy, he's going to be totally terrifying, because he's brilliant and charismatic. Vance is that guy. I mean, he could absolutely take MAGA world to a whole new level, where it's not just like a bunch of silly parties and a bunch of dumb internet memes, where it's an actual fascist ideology with a real orientation and its own internal logic, something that MAGAism doesn't have right now.
Don't you think Vance, though? I mean, my take on him is that he will believe what is convenient. He was, as you mentioned, a moderate Republican just not too long ago. He said Donald Trump is Hitler. He called him a fascist. It was a weird choice for a vice presidential pick, quite frankly. But my take on Vance is that he doesn't believe in anything other than J.D. Vance.
Well, let's go back to a Vichy. Pierre Laval, who served as prime minister under the Vichy regime for Philippe Pétain in occupied France. He was a former socialist deputy, and he saw the way the winds were blowing in the late 30s, early 40s, and moved far to the right, and was an opportunist. I think Vance is exactly that kind of person, but he does have the intellectual heft and the canniness to develop a whole theory of MAGA that doesn't currently exist.
No, that is terrifying. I mean, it really is, because up until this point, there has been no intellectual underpinnings for this movement other than Donald Trump is godlike and Jesus wants him to be president. I mean, seriously, that's been the take.
Jesus redirected the bullet away from his scalp, across the tip of his right ear, and into the body of an innocent firefighter.
Yes, because Jesus doesn't give a shit firefighters, but Donald Trump, he cares.
Because Jesus Jesus lives in heaven. He doesn't need a firefighter. They need firefighters in hell. That's where the flames are. Hello. I thought you were a religious man.
My theology is wanting compared to yours, Ted. I don't know what to tell you, man. Okay, well, so going forward, what and this is predictions, and anyone can make predictions because there's no consequences per se. I think Harris-Walz gets at least another month to skate from the mainstream media.
Well, that's entirely possible. I mean,
no questions, no arguing. Why is she not sitting down for interviews? When she has the debate with Trump, I suspect she'll come off okay.
I'm not sure. I mean, here's the thing is, they're both terrible debaters. I mean, we saw her in 2019. Her whole moment was, I was that little girl on the bus Never mind that it was bullshit. But the whole point is that was a rehearsed moment, right? When she, in subsequent debates, she was never able to get that lightning back in a bottle. She doesn't have more of those. So she might come to the first debate, assuming there's more than one, with a moment or two packaged like that. I'm sure she will. She'll probably talk about how she's a prosecutor and he's a felon, something like that. Everybody will be, ooh, and who knows, that might land. It probably will land. But, and Trump is a terrible debater. I mean, you know, he was bad in the debate with Biden. He just managed to stay out of Biden's way while he's self-immolated.
Well,
But
that's where that format
bad
helped him.
too. It's going to be two really bad. I think in the end, the voters are going to go to the polls in November or for early voting starting in like October, and they're going to be thinking, these are two lamos, and I've got to choose between these two lamos. It's not going to be quite, I think it's going to be insanely tight, down to the wire, maybe like 2000, like really crazy.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be, if the polls continue, I think the mainstream media is going to continue to run interference for her. She may have some interviews by some softball like a Stephanopoulos, and the debate will go okay. But past that, I just don't. I think Harris. I get the sense Harris wins by 5 points, 5 to 6 points.
I mean, that could happen. It totally.
Well, anything could happen, but I'm just saying that.
I mean, I'm not saying, oh, no fucking way. I mean, you know, it could be Obama 2.0, absolutely, for some of the similar reasons. I mean, you know, the history making potential, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is where we're going to really see how far identitarianism goes. I mean, come on, put Obama next to Harris. There's no fucking comparison about, you know, who's more talented than, you know, or who's smarter. But, you know, it may not matter. Americans don't always vote for smart people. That's why we had George W. Bush.
Well, that's why we had, well, just a lot. Doesn't it seem, let's break this down historically for a moment before we say goodbye. Doesn't this feel like the time between, say, 1824 and 1860, where you just had this conga line of loser presidents, a lot of one-termers,
a lot of mediocrity, including among those who challenged them and lost, right?
Right. And I think, well, and there's some that are good. James K. Polk is highly underrated as a president. He ran on a ticket with specific things he wanted to achieve. He did it in one term and he walked away. That's impressive.
I thought James K. Polk became president because of the death of William Henry Harrison.
No, that was William Henry Harrison. That was the first one. That was, oh gosh, I can see him. He actually still has a grandchild alive today. He had 30 plus children with 2 different wives. Tyler, Tippecanoe and Tyler too. He was the Tyler.
You're right.
And if you ever look at a picture of President Tyler, you'll go, wow, he had 32 children.
He was a fugly dude.
He was fugly. Yeah, he was not a handsome man. And he actually was elected to the Confederate Congress. He died before he could serve. But he was also kind of a traitorous piece of shit. But so you had Harrison. He lasted a month because he gave his inaugural address in a sleet storm, and then died of pneumonia a month later. So Tyler ascends to the presidency. The party refuses to renominate him.
And you get Polk.
Then you get James K. Polk. You get I'm trying to think. Franklin Pierce.
Zachary Taylor, right? Don't forget Zachary
Taylor. And Taylor dies. So then you get Millard Fillmore.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get, oh my God, you get James Buchanan, the worst president
ever.
The worst ever, a pro-slavery Northerner. What could go wrong?
And a complete jackass.
He may have been our first gay president, though. He had a boyfriend for a long time, apparently.
Well, the LGBT thing works for something, I guess. So there was.
But then the 1860 election happens, and you got Bell running on the Constitution Party. You've got Breckinridge running on the Southern Democrats. You've got Stevenson on the Northern Democrats, and you have Abe Lincoln as a Republican. He wins. But those other guys, I don't know that Breckinridge would have been a particularly good president.
No, but Breckinridge of the United States, fucking fascinating figure.
Okay,
absolutely fascinating. But I mean, he served as what was it, Secretary of War in the Confederacy. He felt honor bound because he was from Kentucky, which was a slave state, but just barely. And he was anti-slavery. He was very skeptical about slavery.
Okay, he was skeptical. I wouldn't say anti. You can't be the Southern Democratic nominee in 1860 and be against slavery.
But anyway, he was beloved by Kentucky even today. And then he had to go on the lam, and he was hopscotching Caribbean islands after the Civil War as the Union forces were after him, until finally there was the amnesty that Andrew Johnson signed that allowed him to return. President Grant actually actively encouraged Breckinridge to get back involved in politics, but Breckinridge demurred and then died disgraced, I believe, in 1876. But he's a super, and apparently he was insanely beloved by the ladies. He had piercing blue eyes, a beautiful face, an excellent mustache, and apparently
he did not have facial hair.
I thought he had like a sort of pointy, no.
Nope.
But anyway, he's just apparently he would walk into the saloon and ladies would just fall over. They would swoon.
We don't have that this time around. No one is swooning over JD Vance or
Tim Walz.
Or Tim Walz.
Well, Donald Trump's kind of in love with JD Vance's piercing blue eyes.
Is he? Wow.
He's like, those eyes.
Did he do that? Really? Is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah, JD Vance definitely has that, when you're told he's an inbred person from hillbilly country, you're like, yeah, I see that,
You can see it. Yeah, you get the oversized head. When you draw him, he just has this ginormous bobblehead. And this is, this isn't juvenile talk. This is how cartoonists talk, by the way, folks. When we look at somebody's face. I'm having a hell of a time capturing Kamala, quite frankly.
I totally have her down.
Oh, yeah?
You want to know my secret? It's all about...
I do.
So first of all, she has the chipmunk cheeks, just like Hillary. And she has, it's all about the eyes. She has the shape of her eyes. So she always looks like she's laughing, even when she's not laughing.
Oh, I just sketched that out a second ago.
She has laughing eyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That might help my next Kamala cartoon, which I have to draw tonight. So.
All right then.
So that being said, Ted, where can we see all things Ted Rawlian?
Please go to my website, rall.com. Go to gocomics.com/Ted Rall. Also go to whowhatwhy.org, and you can listen to my stuff on Centerclip as well as Scott's stuff. There are many podcasts. Also go to the Final Countdown radio show on X Spaces and Rumble, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, co-hosted with Steve Gill. You can also stream it after the fact. Scott, how about you? Where can we find your stuff?
You can go to Chicago Tribune or .com, go to Opinion and see my work I draw for them. You can go to Dallas News for the Dallas Morning News, see the work I draw for them. You can also go to schmirkonish.com. If you know, he's got a show on Sirius XM. He's also got a show on CNN, and he has hired a couple of cartoonists to do some work for him, which is very cool. He loves editorial cartooning and puts his money where his mouth is. God bless him. I too am on Centerclip with Ted Rall and a list of many others. Yeah, go to gocomics.com/Prickly City and see my political comic strip. I'm kind of everywhere, man. I'm omnipotent.
I've been everywhere, man.
Man, I've been everywhere. Okay, that's enough of that.
All right.
You poor listeners.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we will check you out next time.
Ciao.